in a major tournament knockout game for the first time since the 1966 World Cup final. They will celebrate long into the night, but England take their place in the quarter-finals, having knocked out their old adversaries, the Germans. Damien, you were right. England won.
Yeah, they're through, and obviously the half of the draw that they're in, it's opened right up for them. Dara, football could well be coming home. You can hear them all singing it there in the stadium. They obviously get the winner tonight, Sweden, Ukraine. And after that, Denmark, Czech Republic. So it's all there for them. It was a nervy contest. They cancelled each other out for long parts. But listen, you have to say they deserve it. They've got the 2 goals. I'm really, really happy for Harry Kane. I hate to see a player his quality get so much stick. And even Gareth Southgate, you know, yes, we call him conservative, but you could argue it's a Mourinho-type performance. If you read up on anything he's done, it's all about detail, detail, detail. He's addressed everything since the World Cup in 2018, whether it be mental, tactical, physical, anything. So he's got his just rewards, so I'm very pleased for him.
And Didi, the German view, naturally very disappointed. I'm thinking of the Muller chance at 1-0 down.
Yeah, which was a giveaway. Sterling got caught in possession, and it was probably the best chance in the second half, or the only proper chance we had in the second half. We had the one through Werner in the first half. Over the 90 minutes, you've got to say that we probably didn't deserve any more than what we got. And then we said it before, there's limited options on the bench. Grealish, you know, he didn't do an awful lot, but he had a hand in both goals, and that makes a difference. At this level, we didn't have a Grealish on the bench or in the squad. And overall, I've got to say, very disappointing, because, you know, you can see that, I think in terms of quality, I think the English got probably a deeper squad than we have. So we could only ever compete in the competition if we are as together as we've been. Yeah, a united squad where everybody pulls in the same direction. Hummels and Müller have not been part of that squad in the last 2 years. They hardly play with some of these guys, you know. They didn't even know them. You know, Müller played with Havertz 45 minutes in the last warm-up game. Hummels never played with Ginter and Riediger. So how do you expect within 10 or 14 days to form a team or to get a bond in that squad that can challenge the best team? So, yeah, overall disappointing, but I've got to say, Jogi Löw is, you know, he's done well for German football. He's been at the helm now for 15 years now, I think. Won the World Cup in 2014, but I think the last 3 years were really wasted with that extension of his contract before the World Cup. Yeah, it was a wasted 3 years, and yeah, we just have to start fresh now. But credit to England, you know, they defended really well, and you know, again, I think they fully deserve their win tonight. And
Richie, for Southgate, you know, we spoke about him beforehand and about how he seemed to keep all the history, and it was very negative history, as we know, from many, many years away from his English players. And they seem to wear that very lightly on their shoulders today.
I think it's an approach that suits the players, but I think in these moments now in the scenes, I think they're going to soak it up now. The significance of this win, they'll allow themselves take on board exactly what an enormous moment this is. Not only in this tournament for them, obviously, but in their history. It's a huge win. It's a win in the knockout stages. They're briefly saying goodbye to the Wembley crowd. Whether they win the next game or not will determine whether they get to see them again in the semi-final. But I think they deserve to win. They're not as flamboyant as other teams we've seen in this tournament. They're not as creative or as imaginative in attack. But what they do and do very well is they're resolute. They are at times difficult to break down. They get yet another clean sheet. And that man there, their captain, is now a goal scorer. So some of the conversation around him and his selection will be put to bed.
Damien, he has this whole group of people who, you know, put stats together for them and analyse opposition and all that stuff. But one of the big things that they came back with from looking at other tournament winners was clean sheets. France had 4 in 18, Portugal had 4 in 16. They now have 4 clean sheets, and they're unbelievably hard to score against.
Yeah, it's what we showed before the game, Darren. You can draw comparisons with France in 2018, Didier Deschamps. As we touched on last night, you know, it comes back to bite you maybe when you start losing games playing that conservative, pragmatic football. But the minute nobody's going to care, they've gone through today. Yes, it's not the most free-flowing stuff like Richie said, but they're through. Nobody cares.
Indeed, they are through, and they certainly won't have a care in the world this evening as England go forward to take their place in the quarter-finals. They'll from, well, that's if they can, with travel restrictions and all that sort of thing, but that's all for another day, as England have made it through to the quarter-finals and Germany are out. Let's look at the Raheem Sterling goal in more detail, Richie. Talk us through this, because this was the vital moment, the game breaker.
Yeah, listen, this game never had the look of one that would finish at 3-3 like yesterday. So the first moment, the first goal was always going to be huge. Raheem Sterling does so well in the build-up here. He's the one who gets on it, turns, runs at the German defence. And you can see here, he just times his run, lays the ball off. No question there of offside from Kane. You can see Sterling's run, he's offside, steps back. Perfect delivery then by Shaw, and it's a goal. I'm really pleased for Sterling, actually. You look at the treatment he's had to receive from the English media over the years. I think there's a large section of the English public who are still not sold on him. Even when he's selected in the team in the back of a tournament where he's been match winner twice, the focus is still on the lads who aren't picked. He seems to be in this constant state of trying to have to win people over. So personally for him, that must be a pretty special moment.
And that's a point, Damien, because there's talk of Raheem Sterling being involved in a cash plus players deal to bring like the likes of Harry Kane and stuff to the Etihad, that he's going to be used as sort of a make weight in this. Like, this is he's had an amazing tournament, 3 goals.
Yeah, you could argue he's won the 3 games with the goals he scored. I believe the last day or two it's now Grealish that's coming. It's supposedly signed, sealed, delivered.
It'll change tomorrow as well.
Yeah, I can't see a swap deal where Sterling's going to Villa. But listen, his stats, he's had a bad season at Man City. Let's call a spade a spade. So he has struggled goals-wise, ended up not in the team. But, you can't argue. And fair play to Southgate sticking with him. And he's come up with 3 big goals. But listen, he's a top player. He does look night and day compared to the Raheem Sterling that we've seen this year at Manchester City.
Like, Didi, that's another point, I suppose. Players do have favourites, but Southgate seems to be very much... managers, do have favourites. And Southgate, Sterling is one of his favourites. And my word, he's delivered for him.
Yeah, well, there's a reason why he's one of the favourites. I think he said it after the first game. He's always delivered for England. And I've got to say, I've never seen him play as well as this. For Man City in a long time. When he starts, that the first goal when he takes on Rudiger and just knocks it by and runs past him, that spark, has been missing. And what I hear from Manchester is that Guardiola is not keen on him anymore. So I think he will be on his way. I'm sure there's a lot of takers, or a lot of people would have him. Depends whether they can afford him. But no, he's done really well. And obviously there's huge competition. We talk about Sancho, we talk about Rashford, Grealish coming on. But he's delivered. He scored them goals, and he got them to where they are now, because the captain didn't score. He stepped up and scored 3 vital goals. And he's a top player. And as Richie said, people don't warm to him for whatever reason. It was the case at Liverpool, it's the case at Manchester City to a certain extent, and in England. But his numbers, I think, the stats for England speak for themselves.
I think it's all the more impressive that he's playing the way he is and scoring the way he is, given the fact that his club career is he's a little bit unsettled, because that's the justification that so many people are putting forward to explain why Kane isn't doing well. But Sterling is in the exact same scenario, we're led to believe, that he doesn't know for sure which club he's going to be at next season, and he doesn't know whether the club he's at actually even want him. And if he's being offered as a make-weight in a deal, that's pretty demeaning, really, for a player who at one stage was 50 million and is one of the most, I think he's the highest cap player in the England squad. He's multiple match winner now. So he's dealing with all the things that Kane are dealing with, but people, for whatever reason, don't seem to be as generous or as patient
Richie,
with him on that one.
I think the difference on this one is that Kane wants to leave the club. Yeah. He's desperate to leave the club. Sterling doesn't need to leave the club. He has to leave the club. So there is a slight difference. Maybe, he wants to show people now what he's worth. Maybe he wants to prove Guardiola wrong. And if he has to go, then he'll take up a new challenge. But, I think in Kane's case, and this is still not resolved. Obviously, he got a goal today. His overall play was poor again. It didn't really do an awful lot. And if you have set your mind on leaving the club, and the chairman says, well, I want too much money, and you may not be able to go, I think it can affect you. And we may see it in the latter section of the tournament.
Yeah, for sure. Didi, let's look at this Muller chance. This was this was the game as well, because get it back to it was 1-0 down at this stage, and there's Sterling.
Yeah, Kroos did ever so well. I think Kroos nicked it. I'm not sure whether we get a replay. I think Kroos nicked it off him. It's not a pass of Sterling, and then Havertz just rolled it through. And it's probably the man you want. You know, Müller has been so prolific over the years for Munich and for Germany. You know, obviously it's 70, 75 minutes played, 30, 40 yard sprint, maybe lacked a little bit of concentration. And he knocks it in the end, he knocks it well wide. And no, it's only half a yard or a yard, but, you know, it never really looked from behind like going in. Yeah, he should have done better. You know, we said it in the first half, the Werner chance. You know, in these games, especially against a team that hasn't conceded yet, you don't get an awful lot of chances. And I think we had 2 clear-cut chances. If we had taken one of them, we'd probably still be playing now.
It's a huge moment for Sterling as well. You can imagine what he was feeling. Like, whatever praise or goodwill he won by getting the goal, he would have been absolutely lynched had he scored there. But they're the big moments. Like, we think back of Netherlands. Malen was through 1-on-1 the other day, missed shortly after the leader sent off, the 1-0 down again with 10 men. So there's huge moments, key moments come in every game, and that one went England's way. And
like, for it to fall to Müller, you're thinking he's going to score this. With his track record, with the career he's had for club and country. Yeah, and it also feels a bit like it's the end of an era as well. Obviously, Jogi Löw stepping aside. That he might, you know, tell us more. But the likes of Müller, Hummels, they're not getting any younger. So you'd imagine that's possibly his last game. Who knows? But yeah, if there's one man you want to take that chance, it's him. So yeah, it was disappointing. He just felt they weren't going to get anything like that again. And obviously, England go down the other end and score, and put it to bed. Didi, is it at the end of an era? I know Lowe is going. Hansi Flick has been at some of the matches. He's coming in next. Like, Hummels will probably retire now, will he? Müller, there are young players there, but it seems like there's a job to do. Yeah, and the question is, have we got a team in 18 months' time that can challenge in Qatar? And these will be the questions these guys will ask themselves. You know, it could well be the end of an era. You know, there's a question mark about Neuer, Kroos, Hummels and Müller. These are the 4 World Cup winners left. You know, Hummels and Müller might retire again. Kroos said something before the tournament. He thinks about it when it's done. So I can see him maybe not playing for Germany anymore. And then Neuer, you know, he may play on. But yeah, it is to a certain extent an end of an era. And some of the younger guys have to step up now. There's a new manager. You know, hopefully things will change, and you know, people get that feeling again that, you know, the national team it counts for a lot, and everybody wants him to do well, because I think the damage he's done with leaving Müller and Hummels and Boateng out 2 years ago was probably far greater than what we've seen today. Yeah. Really, the German public kind of turned. Yeah, they did, because nobody understood. There was no reason to do it. There was no reason to say to these 3 guys, they're playing in the Bundesliga. You know, Hummels and Boateng were 2 of the best centre-backs in the league this season. Müller scored, I don't know, 15 goals, got 10 or 12 assists. There was no reason to do it. And obviously, it took away the chance to form a unit and a team that can challenge in the next European Championship. So, you know, and as I said before, nobody understood it. Then you could tell 6-8 months ago that we need them. Because the young players he wanted to promote, they just went up to it, or they didn't improve as much as he thought they would. And he should have taken them back maybe 6, 8, 10 months ago. Then they would have had, you know, 6, 7, 8 games to get used to each other. They didn't. Obviously, it's too late now. It's not going to change anything. But I think the era of Jogi Löw, which was very successful, I think he had 6 or 7 semi-finals in a row, won the World Cup. If you ask people now, no, I'll tell you what. Yeah, no, I was going to say, has he tarnished his legacy? I think I'll withdraw that question.
Yes.
You think he has?
Yeah. I think he has. If you speak to people now, it'll be interesting to see what the reaction back in Germany will be tomorrow in the press. But I think the last 3 years, probably. Yeah, more than tarnished what he did the 10 years before. Because I had a quote here, actually, and I have to apologise, I'm not quite sure who it's from, but I did let you know about this earlier on. It said, I think it might have been Ralf Honigstein, I hope I'm not misquoting him, but what he said was, he said, Germany are no longer a well-functioning collective, which was always a given, but an ever-changing assembly of individuals depending on individual heroics. Now, you got that with Goretzka the other night. That's actually pretty close to... Yeah, but that's what he created. I think to a certain extent he created that by leaving these guys out. because the best players should play, and if they don't want to play anymore, they will tell the manager, you know. And that wasn't the case in the last 2 years. And I think he probably did a lot more damage to the national team and German, not German football, but the national team. As I said, that we saw, because if you want to compete, you need a united team. You saw it with Denmark, you saw it with Switzerland yesterday. You know, they go through a brick wall for the manager. Do these guys go through a brick wall, or would they have gone through a brick wall for him today? I doubt it.
So all those semi-finals and a World Cup win is forgotten about because of his poor judgment with those two players. Well, is it felt that strongly?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's forgotten, but it's more than tarnished.
Really?
People won't talk about an era now when he goes, how many fantastic moments he brought to football Germany. People will talk about the last 3 or 4 years, and the last impression is always the longest lasting one, unfortunately. But I've got to say that, you know, there was a lot of things going on in the last few years. Also, the team selection of players he's picked or not picked. You know, now he brings Sané and Musiala on with about 2 or 3 minutes of injury time to go. You know, and a lot of decision, people just, you know, they just couldn't grasp why he's doing it or what he's doing, and he's lost probably a long time ago. Obviously, we got beat by Spain 6-0 about 3 or 4 months ago. I think he lost the German public a long time ago, and it tarnished his achievements, as you said. Then again, you've got to see that he's got a fantastic team for 10 years. You know, now you can say maybe, you know, we've been to 6 or 7 semi-finals. Maybe we should have got to 1 or 2 more finals. You know, obviously this is the questions people are asking now. But it's a sad end to what was probably or really was a pretty successful spell.
Yeah, a good end to this match though for England. We're going to look at the Harry Kane goal. Damien, this, and like, you wonder what's ahead for this guy now. You know, he's broken this duck, got the goal.
Yeah, he seems unbreakable confidence-wise, so I would have liked to know where he was at before the game with the amount of stick he's been getting, but so pleased for him. It's his 35th goal for England. He's been the best striker in the Premier League for numerous years now, and ruthless from England, you'd have to say. Germany obviously forcing a ball through the centre. They break quickly, great ball in from Grealish. He had to come on, and he's made the difference, like Diddy said, involved in 2 goals, crossing his weaker foot. He'll definitely move in the summer. I think he has to. I think he belongs in, you know, Champions League finals, winning Premier Leagues. I think he's that good. But yeah, brilliant from Kane, and like I said, I don't know whether he was struggling with confidence, but that will help him. You would think lots going into the knockout stages of the tournament. Brilliant finish, good movement, time in the run, top class, everything you'd expect from him.
And Richie, this is, you know, this defence, we were talking about Southgate's sort of conservatism and he doesn't want to take too many risks, but everything that happened today, he got it right.
You could describe it as something else. Like, yes, he's conservative and defence-minded and cautious and seems to focus on not conceding rather than scoring a hatful. But I think there's real bravery in having that approach, because he ignored all the chest-thumping that goes with managing England at home in Wembley against Germany, all the calls to go at them, to try and pick 7 strikers in the same pitch, all the creative ones, all the imaginative ones. He's stuck very consistently to his vision of how this England team can play, and it's a repetition of what we saw in the last World Cup. Not particularly great going forward. As Duffer said, the draw opened up for them back then. It's absolutely done the same here. So if he continues to go in with a defence-minded, cautious, mean kind of approach to every match, like there's an opening to the final here for him.
Yeah, for sure there is. And just to develop that point, Damien, that he has done things his own way. Now, the flip side of that is if they had been beaten today, he would have been destroyed in the media for doing that, everything his own way, for not playing Sancho, for not getting, as Richie says, like 7 attackers into the team and just give them the ball and off you go. He has stayed true to his beliefs, has stuck with what he wants, and he's got the team into the quarter-final.
Absolutely. Listen, they're the hardest calls. He has 4 or 5, possibly even 6 wingers inside 10s that they play today. He can only play 2 of them, so he's always going to upset people, upset the public. You know, the public have really latched on to Jack Grealish. We know that, even when it zooms in on in the crowd, you can hear them all. So he's under immense pressure to play him. Again, he stood firm, hasn't played him. You can say what the way they're playing 3-4-3 is hyper defensive, but you can still get an awful lot of bodies up the pitch. So for me, you can look at it two ways. I think it can be the other way, as in get bodies up the pitch, 5-6, and they have it nailed. They've played it for 2-3 years. In the back line, Maguire, obviously massive back in. They're so hard to beat. They do not concede goals. You can't look beyond them.
Were you making them favourites now?
I'm not saying that, but
what are you saying?
Belgium, Spain, obviously, are going to meet them at some point.
Yeah.
You can't look beyond them to get to the final. And then the other side of the draw, that's where the other heavyweights come in. But they're just so hard to beat there. I'm not saying they're a great watch. They're not, but they're so hard to beat. Yeah,
like Southgate and others, any England fans, Didi, they won't care about being a great watch or exciting or thrilling us or showing us the sort of, the amount of goals we saw yesterday. For them, it's about winning, and they haven't done it in a long time.
Yeah, and that should be it. They, if they were to win the European Championship this year or in a couple of weeks' time, in 6 months' time, nobody will talk about how they got it. Do you know who France beat 2018 in the group stages? I don't.
Yeah.
And that's how it is. You've got to win. And when they come up against Sweden or Ukraine and then Denmark or Czech, if they were to win that quarter-final, I think at times it's got to be more expansive, because I think you leave yourself open to concede off the set piece, and they haven't conceded, which is great. But if you do concede and go one down, I'm not sure they got the answers, because you can't throw them on, because in a way he might have too many options, because when he looks at the bench and thinks, I've got to bring an attacking player on, he could pick any of 6 or 7. This is the wealth of talent they've got going forward. It'll be interesting to see, but as the lad said, it's very brave to stick with what he did, to go probably even more cautious or more defensive. I thought at the start of the game it's a bit negative. I'm thinking he gives the impetus to Germany and says, we're a bit scared of you. We stick another defender in there. But it's worked. Kane got his goal, so happy days.
Yeah, well, can we have a look at the path to the final now, and just what, I suppose for yourself to get at home to get an idea of just how this thing has opened up for them, lads. And OK, Sweden-Ukraine is tonight, and that match is in Rome on Saturday. Denmark, Czech Republic on the same side of the draw. But when you look at what's on the other side, Richie.
Yeah, I hope and I assume, given what we know about Southgate and his approach, that those England players aren't doing what we're doing. We're plotting out beyond the next game.
Oh yeah, we've totally discounted Sweden and Ukraine.
So like if this tournament has told us anything, particularly the last few days, being the favourite or having the better players and more experienced players or higher profile players, that's not enough to win you games in this competition. You've got to show up and play. So I think England should focus solely 100% on the next game in Rome and not beyond that at all, because if they do, I think they'll end up getting stuffed.
Yeah. And like some of the teams that have fallen, we saw France going out yesterday. There's a lot of, OK, there's still a huge amount of talent left in the thing, but there's a real route for them to get to the final with...
There is. The only opposition for me there on that side of the draw there would be Denmark. Obviously they struggle getting through the group for obvious reasons, but if you watch their games and watch them closely, Belgium, they should have got something out of Belgium, potentially beat them, absolutely slaughtered Russia, tore them apart. Wales the same. Denmark actually beat England last year in the Nations League, so they have previous. So that's the only obstacle I'd see for England getting to the final.
And well, there's one other obstacle that I would think of, Richie. How does Southgate now keep a lid on it, to keep the history away from them, keep the hype away from them, with the quarter-final and maybe beyond? I
think he just keeps doing exactly what he's been doing. He doesn't have to change his approach. So every single question about the enormity of the win and, all the questions, what they're going to be. Does that show you and your team that you're good enough to win the tournament? You've got this big result, because they've beaten teams. We mentioned it earlier. In 2018, they got all the way to the semis, but didn't really beat a top team on the way. Yeah. They've just beaten, I know it's a weakened Germany team, but it's still a top team in terms of the tournament.
It's still Germany.
Exactly.
OK. Sorry for your troubles today, Didi. we enjoyed watching the match with you, though. There's other tournaments to come.
When Muller missed that, it was the loudest I've ever heard him scream.
It's the quickest I've ever seen him move.
I tell you, the behind-the-scenes stuff here would be good.